think my favorite scene in The Bird is that scene with the bird expert.
Yeah.
And that scene alone right there,
That's
that
great.
really inspired me to really create Birdemic, the whole Birdemic trilogy. That's in alone. I never went to film school, but if there was a film school for me, it was the film school of Hitchcock cinema.
Motherfucking goddamn orange peel beef.
It's one fucking hour time. I'm Evan Husney. Of course, this is the show where we talk about one movie for one fucking hour. And we got Tom Fitzgerald in the house. Tom, how's it going?
Greetings, Earthlings.
And we got Marcus Herring all the way to the right.
What's up? Man, I'm super stoked tonight.
Yeah, this is a very special episode because we have a very special guest in the house. Everybody say hello to James Nguyen, the film director of Birdemic, Shock and Terror. James, what's going on, man?
Yeah, hi everyone.
Yeah, thanks for coming on the show. Happy New Year.
I appreciate you inviting me. Yeah, Happy New Year, everyone.
Yeah, Happy New Year, and welcome to one fucking hour. It's good to have you.
Yeah. Super awesome to have you on the show. I suppose we should explain for the good folks at home how we know you, or how I know you. I think it was back in 2009. I was at the Sundance Film Festival and saw you there, James, basically guerrilla promoting your own independent film that you self-financed and made and bootstrapped, which was a film called Birdemic, Shock and Terror, which is, obviously has a lot to do with the movie we'll be talking about tonight, Alfred Hitchcock's The Birds. And you projected this movie in a bar. I saw it, fell in love with it, and then wound up distributing the film. And we did that, God, that's almost 15 years ago now.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Yeah, that was a long time ago, and it was fun. I remember it was freezing cold, it was snowy and
at Sundance.
At Sundance, and it's a miracle that the film got distributed, at that point, and the rest was history. It became a kind of a cult sensation hit, a flying cult sensation hit, according to the New York Times.
That's right. It did. That's right. We released Birdemic throughout theaters across the world. It got mainstream press and played midnight theaters all over the country and the world, as I said. And we got to know each other. And since then, you've made Birdemic 2, but now you have a new installment in the franchise, Birdemic 3 Sea Eagle, right? Tell us about that.
Yes, it's the trilogy. It's Birdemic 3 takes place in Santa Cruz, California. It's a place very beautiful and near Capitola. It's and the sea eagle. The synopsis: a flock of sea eagle attack people at the Santa Cruz Beach Walk. Why did the bird attack and who survived? And so that's the plot of the film. And such a beautiful location, Santa Cruz, Capitola. It's and I got lucky with the cast again. And the Birdemic 3 it's got the best music of the trilogy.
A true statement. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
And the reason I made the film, one is it's been a long time. The fans are really wanted it. Second is it's time, because I try to raise at least $10-20 million. Remember we Evan, we did the thing with you, your Vice documentary on Birdemic and me. And
that's right.
Yeah, which I really, that doc was trying to pitch Hollywood. How big can you pitch in that? Say we need $10-20 million, and it didn't happen. Okay, it's the pitch. The ICM was when we went to the A-list talent agency. So after all that, and no producer, Hollywood producer came and pony up at least $1 million. But $10-20 million, that's really nice. So it didn't happen, and so basically into 2020, just do it. Money or no money, and Seven Film gave me some money to help get started, and here the movie was made. But also lastly, I made the film because we have a crisis right now, climate emergency. Global warming, climate change.
That's right. That's right. And that is a big part of the film. You were talking about a documentary we sort of made together, retracing the story of how we met and how the film, the first Birdemic came out. I'm going to link that in the description of this video for everyone to check out, so they get the full backstory, further reading on Birdemic and our history. But I think without further ado,
a quick question about the other guys have seen Birdemic 3, right? Or have any of you seen it? So,
definitely.
I've only seen 1 and 2. How can I see 3, James?
Right. Oh yeah.
I think it's available online. I was released VOD yesterday. On the 24th. Yeah, on the 24th. Yeah, so you can see it Amazon Prime, YouTube TV, YouTube, and the major VOD channel.
Great.
So,
we can post that link too, I guess, right?
Yes. So also we'll have a link for anyone who wants to check out Birdemic 3, links to the VOD or anywhere you can watch it. That'll also be in the link of the description of this video as well, too. Or if you're listening, Linkdemic, baby. All right. So without further ado, let's get this hour started, because what we're really here for, also, of course, to promote James's film, but we also want to talk. This is episode 55 of the show, and we're covering our first formal Alfred Hitchcock film. This is 1 fucking hour on The Birds. Of course, that's the film we're going to do here with James being a special guest. So, guys, I'm going to start the clock if you're all ready for it.
Yeah. One thing I'll say, we did, in a sideways way, cover Hitchcock, a classic, by doing the 1998 reboot by Gus Van Sant for Psycho. Right. So this is our first legit Hitchcock, and we did a sideways Hitchcock. So it's nice to actually address the master himself.
Exactly.
Because that was a rough one. That's
all right. I'm gonna hit that clock. So here we go.
Let's go.
And 1 second. Here we go. Boom. All right. Little background on the film. Everybody's familiar with it, of course. But the film The Birds, it follows a chic socialite, Melanie Daniels, of course, played by Tippi Hedren, and she fixates on a passing flirtation with an attorney in a San Francisco pet shop, and on an impulse follows him to his quaint seaside hometown, bearing a gift of lovebirds. But upon her arrival, the bird population runs amok. Suddenly, the townsfolk face a massive avian onslaught, with multiple species of birds inexplicably attacking the residents of Bodega Bay. The film is loosely based on the 1952 short story of the same name by Daphne du Maurier. How do you say that? Daphne du...
I think you're in the ballpark.
Daphne du Maurier.
Yeah.
Alfred Hitchcock's 1963 film stands out among his filmography because of what it doesn't give audiences, which is answers. We're going to talk about that. It's very ambiguous in many ways, and that's, I think, what makes it really super interesting. But, James, I want to kick this thing off by asking you, when did you first see the movie, and what was it that about The Birds that really inspired you? Because obviously it launched your whole, it helped inspire your whole film trilogy, as we talked about.
Yes, I think the first time I saw it when in the 80s, the early 80s, when I was in high school. It was an afternoon TV movie, and so I will watch it, and I was scared. I think I was like about 10, 11 years old. I was scared, with the bird attacking and all that. And that was my first really introduction to Hitchcock cinema film. It was The Bird, and the scene when Miss Tippi Hedren was in the phone booth, and the seagull attacked the glass, and that always really a scene always it's emblazoned in my mind, and I think that's the first time I saw it. And in fact, I was fortunately in my first film, Julie Jack, in 2001. That I had Miss Tippi Hedren. I directed her in my first film, Julie Jack.
Oh wow!
That's so crazy.
So
Can I ask? I've always wondered. Did you seek her out? I mean, how did that work? How did Tippi wind up in the film?
Well, by 2001, I was already a Richard Hitchcock fan. So it was like nearly over 10, 15 years. So So I became a filmmaker in 2001, and so I knew about the Birds and even Vertigo, Miss Kim Novak. So I actually my favorite Hitchcock film is Vertigo, Hitchcock Vertigo, and I actually made the offer a cameo to Miss Kim Novak. And so she turned it down, you know, and so then I made an offer to Miss Tippi Hedren, and she accepted it.
Sure.
And so and we shot her scene in San Jose. It was great, you know, and I actually learned a lot about making films during shooting her scene, you know, and it was exciting, you know, and that's, I mean, you know, here it is, you know, Miss Tippi had the glass great come on.
Yeah,
amazing.
Did you talk about the Birds? with her? Did you have some time?
Oh, yes. We actually for PR purpose and interview behind the scene, we actually drove up to Bodega Bay at the Thai restaurant. It's remodeled now. It's burning now. You can actually see on YouTube a clip of that. Where she actually did conduct the interview. We conduct the interview of her, and
cool,
and so on. Yeah, and she aged pretty well, even at that, like nearly 20 years ago, or nearly 21 years ago, and into now she still looks really beautiful, fantastic, and so that's my Hitchcock connection, in terms of
awesome.
In terms of production, but in terms of the movie itself, The Bird, I don't know if you're aware that the Bird, it was not just a Hitchcock, the romantic thriller, but it was the first eco thriller, kind of like film about nature's revenge, or even the first film about climate change. There's a scene when the bird expert, I think the character was called Mrs. Bundy, and Antonio and the bird expert, and they were seeing they were talking in a Thai restaurant, and it's just a line that really basically makes this film prophetic, ahead of its time. I think that's one reason it became hit. Where I'll quote here. I had it right here. Mrs. Bundy say, this is her line. Okay, birds are not aggressive creature. They bring beauty to the world. It's mankind rather who makes life hard to survive on this planet. It makes life difficult for life to survive on this on the planet.
Right.
I mean, what a line! This is 1963.
Yeah,
and they're kind of like referring to the civilization, industrial civilization, is harming planet Earth. But they did in a very lightly way. And so Bird. I think The Bird it was the first film that really warned about the harms of climate change, global warming. In 1963. I mean,
that's pretty remarkable. That's pretty remarkable.
So I can't think of anything until the 70s. Where they started addressing eco, issues. That's a good point. That conversation in the diner.
I saw Hitchcock even in an interview mentioned that he said just straight up, well, I think it's about not taking nature for granted, and he even made a connection to the atomic bomb. He was saying humans dug up uranium in the soil, and how did that turn out for us? So
right,
Anyway.
So it's on his mind. It was definitely on his mind for sure. Making this film and his other work. Tom, I want to throw it to you just real quick because I know you had a formative experience watching this film at a young age as well too. Tell us about that.
I did. I was very young, and my dad took me. I visited him in San Francisco. Okay, and we watched a double feature of Family Plot, Hitchcock's last film, set in San Francisco mostly, and The Birds. And it really freaked me out. I was very young, and I was lulled, especially because the beginning of the movie is sort of romantic and pretty, and sort of like a candy looking San Francisco, the Technicolor. It's a very pretty film. And I wasn't expecting the specific moment where they come upon the farmer's ranch and you see his eyes are gouged out and it's very bloody. What I mean is, I wasn't expecting hardcore bloody violence in this pretty 1963 sort of mid-century movie. So of course it freaked me out as much as it joined Jaws and other kinds of nature disaster films. And now I did very bad comic books when I was a kid, and I was inspired. I think I did a birds comic, but I'm not sure. I can't find it. But I definitely did one of the African bees, and I called it The African Bees, a Horror Story. And look at I crediting myself, and it's terrible and weird, So yes, the film, that scene of the farmer's eyes, but
Unreal.
all of it. And I was about the age of those kids at the birthday party and everything. So, but I enjoyed the hell out of it. I mean, I got a huge rush out of just the pure cinema of it, and it was so wild. I mean, we'll talk about individual scenes, but I mean, just the scene of at the gas station, like it's just that's another early thing. James talking about how early a lot of things in the birds is. I feel I haven't seen like hardcore, terrifying chaos like in that scene at the gas station. That's kind of, it's early for movies to have such an impolite kind of like chaotic, violent moment like that on a mass scale. Is what I'm saying.
I know.
What do you guys think?
Yeah,
No,
definitely.
I mean,
Definitely, the gas station scene definitely predates Zoolander gas station.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
Right.
But it also, like, like what really struck me watching The Birds again, and it's been a while since I had seen it. It was awesome to rewatch it for this. Is like when you see, obviously, there's a melding of different special effects that's utilized in this to achieve the bird attacks. You got, things that are, like blue screen, but then you have like birds on wires, and then you have other early optical effects that are being used. And the melding of it creates this really sort of trippy feeling while watching it, especially because the movie doesn't have any music, really, so to speak. There's no score. So it's just this audio-visual assault that's just very crazy to
well, like the credit sequence, the abstract pattern of the passing, menacing-looking birds. And to speak of it, there is no score, there's no music in the film, but there's a lot of attention. I think the quote I have here from Hitchcock is, he wanted kind of an electronic silence so that there's this hum that's happening. And he was implying by doing that, he was trying to make it seem like something very bad is down the road and it's nearby. And you can hear the hum of this very bad vibe. And there's an electronic score to the film. And Marcus has some insights on that about how
I was looking into it. The guy is like, who did the score is this guy, Oscar Sala, who developed this instrument called the Trautonium. It's a synthesizer from 1930. Whoa. And Hitchcock first saw it like when he was doing radio, because he had like a history of doing like his show, the Hitchcock sort of horror stuff on the radio. So anyway, so I always wanted to use it. So that's what a lot of the bird sound effects is like processed and created like through this, even like the chirping and stuff, like and the squawking and stuff is actually generated by this sort of Trautonium synthesizer. It's a pretty amazing looking machine too. It's like it's not keys like a keyboard. It's different kind of like metal plugs and like a ribbon that you can go and touch with your finger and kind of slide up and down, and it looks really incredible.
That's crazy.
But you know that the composer was Bernard Herrmann,
right?
The same great guy that the great score of Vertigo, and even Citizen Kane, voted the greatest film ever made. And I think they purposely, I think there's a score, but it's kind of like with no music,
right.
And it was they purposely did it like that.
It's such a like bizarre. Or it's such an interesting choice, to just be like that. The birds themselves is really going to be like the score of this movie. It's a pretty bold choice for like a Hollywood film, right?
Well, what I'd heard, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean it's, because it was pretty daring, Boeing, in the sense that the convention you have to have music, and I think that Hitchcock, because the box office success of Psycho and a prior film to that, he had some kind of like final cut control. I mean, in terms of artistic control that allow him to do that. And it's probably one of the first film ever in a major Hollywood release like that to have without a score, without music. And the film, and it's pretty daring, and that's something that's I think is ahead of its time. I mean, The Bird to me, a film that it's ahead of its time. It was both ahead of its time, but it was commercially successful. But it's a film that it's ahead of its time because of its climate change, global warming message, in a very hidden way, in a very subtle way.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, are we gonna get off the sound thing yet? Because I had a quick little note on that. This was a big film for me, and I always had this idea when I was a kid, even, and it kind of developed as a teenager. This was a huge totemic film for me. I just assumed that everyone's always seen it, I saw it as a kid, and I actually was attacked by a bird. Like when I was a kid, I was trying to pick up this baby bird and help it, and its mama blue jay flew down and started pecking me. So I still remember what it's like to get pecked on the head by a blue jay. And
doesn't look fun.
No,
yeah. So this and chased by everyone's been chased by geese too, right? But so I always had this idea because the music always stuck out to me. The lack of music is pointed out to me, and I was always like, "Wow, it's so brilliant," But then when I started playing in bands and stuff, I had this idea. I was like, I'm gonna do a score to the Birds, or commission bands to do their own score to the Birds. But then you could invert it to where it's like it's not about the Birds. You make the music control the emotion, so you make it like so that the Birds are like the triumphant victors. Like when the Birds are in cages. You flip the meaning, so with the music. So when the Birds are in cages, it's all this like dark, menacing music. But when they are like swooping down the people, it's this kind of like Star Wars triumphant, fanfare, showing
on the side of the Birds.
Yeah, exactly.
You should do that.
Yeah.
Can I just say, oh no, Evan, please.
Yeah, I just wanted to tie this back around, merge those two thoughts. The idea of James talking about like this movie being ahead of its time and sort of having an ecological message, I think definitely that's present among other themes too in the movie. But one thing that also hit me watching this, it's impossible to sort of deny, is like the movie does touch on the hubris of man, right? That like humankind is, we think of ourselves at the top of the food chain and we're really in control of everything. But then, of course, like when something like this happens, like as it does in the Birds, and we become, the animals in cages, obviously, you see obviously that sort of allegorical image of Tippi Hedren in the phone booth, as we've talked about, like being in her own cage, or you see like the family in their house when they're trapped in it. And it's really becoming a film where, they're now trapped in this house. And it was like, which also feels very proto Night of the Living Dead, by the way. That's what I was really thinking about too. And so was Raimi when we
another connection with Night of the Living Dead. Were you going to mention that Birds and Night of the Living Dead were very innovative in the 60s, where there was no explanation for why this started. Right. Both films don't have a reason for why the dead are walking again, or why
that's
the birds
mentioned
are
in the film.
People. Because the thing is that there's so many conventions that the birds, particularly bucks, and what you would have in most common films is a group of scientists who would explain everything at some point, a lot of exposition, and say, well, it's clear that the climate or whatever the specific concrete reason is, and then of course would have a resolution where there would be like an army general, and they'd come in and save the day, and have that kind of triumphant ending but the film ends on such a strange, I don't even know if it's a sour note, but it's foreboding. I feel like those birds look like they're taking, I don't know, we could talk about the ending, all of us, but my thought is that my gut always tells me it's like, it feels like the birds are just taking 5, they're taking a minute, but they're right there, they're on guard.
Yeah.
Go, talk to me.
But James,
what's up with
James,
the
go ahead. James, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, I think the bird attack, both in the original The Bird, Hitchcock The Bird, and even my Birdemic, it's a metaphor to me. It's a metaphor for nature's revenge against man and his warming machine. It's a metaphor. That's what it is. And at the end of The Bird, Hitchcock The Bird, where they get in the car and just slowly drive away while all the birds just stand still, making low sound. It's maybe perhaps it's saying it's a metaphor for saying that man, industrial civilization, we have to clean up. We're giving you a second chance. We're letting you leave the premise alive, without killing you. We're leaving you. We're letting you go.
Yeah.
We're giving you a second chance.
That was a warning.
Yeah.
Warning. Yeah. Yeah. So the pack is a warning. It's a metaphor.
Wow.
And yeah, it's just, to me, that's how I interpret it. It's like we're giving you a second chance. So clean up. If you bring it to today contemporary meaning, means that, and this is in Birdemic 3 too. Okay, and it means that it's not that mitigate. They have to COP, the United Nations climate change conference, the COP27 just ended late last year. Meanings, the mitigation. Renewable energy, green electric car. Low emission, industrial low emission, and second is the adaptation. Meaning useless resources, or insulate your house so that it's use better energy. Useless resources, it's too hot. Adapt your house, whatever. So that's adaptation. That's the second agenda. The third one they just added this year, and then last year it took 20 years to happen. It's a reparation. All the poor country, the island country. Now they're getting billions of dollars to help them because of climate change, CO2 harming them. Okay, but what's missing that's so important and is the agenda that's got to be there. That's what I'm trying to do through my nonprofit called Climate Fix. Is climate fix it? Meaning right now, if you watch Birdemic 3, okay, there's. It means that even if net zero right now, even all the agenda, the emission goal, all that at COP27, even COP28, net zero emission, all nation at this second, this minute, it's not going to fix anything. Mitigation, adaptation,
it's beyond
because
the point.
because up there right now in the Earth atmosphere since the Industrial Revolution of 750 or 1850, but it really accelerated in 1950. There's over 2 to 3 trillion tons of CO2. It's up there already. It's pretty big. That's why it's heating up the planet exponentially. And every year, it's just extreme weather. It's getting worse every year. Even right now, 2 weeks ago, the scene that we shot in Santa Cruz, Capitola. So those colorful houses and the pier, it was devastated. The storm came in. They call it atmospheric river, whatever storm.
Right.
I
was wondering about that.
Yeah. It basically crashed the pier. The pier is destroyed, damaged, and those houses was nearly underwater. Those colorful house scene, So the scene where you watch Birdemic 3, where the little dating scene, they're walking on the beach in Capitola, the whole place is a wreck now. It's under,
Jesus.
Nearly underwater.
Have you considered, James? Have you considered shooting there at that site now? And to show the difference and maybe work on some kind of expanded version of Birdemic 3?
Yeah.
Well, there's a Birdemic 4. There's a
there's a 4.
I didn't want to be presumptuous, but
what I'm saying here is that we have to find a way to fix this. It's just talk, complain.
So the birds gave us a chance.
And they cop every year. Yes.
Right. So the birds are giving us that chance. Okay. So
I see.
Can I ask something weird about Capitola that you mentioned? Right. Like that, there's a that's tied into the early stages of the birds too. I don't know if you guys read this or not.
Yes.
But
yes.
It is also partly inspired by like a mass bird attack in Capitola.
Right. Yes.
And that happened like right before, like in the early 60s, and
61.
Like Hitchcock knew about it. Right. Okay.
Yeah.
It
was a you can read about it. There's newspaper clippings about this, but it was basically birds that had eaten some weird algae that was like in the water that had actually like deteriorated their brains and made them disoriented and crazy.
Oh my God.
And they actually wound up dive bombing and smashing into buildings in this area. And that was one of the inspirational sort of pieces of, real ripped from the headlines to inspire
amazing.
this movie. So, which is pretty.
If I had one critique of that, I would say that they shouldn't have said why that they were doing it. We shouldn't have found out why.
Right, exactly.
It's much more interested, open-ended, I think, the way that Hitchcock left it.
We should talk about that too, because I think a lot of people, scholars and fans of this movie have kind of written into another interpretation of the movie, sort of outside of the man versus nature allegory metaphor that's in the film, is that something that I really appreciated a lot rewatching it again was just the interpersonal dynamics, the gender dynamics, if you will, between Tippi Hedren and Rod Taylor and his other girlfriend, Anne. Is that
Suzanne Plachette.
That's
Anna,
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Anna, right. And just sort of really getting into the way that, their dynamics play out through this whole movie, because some people...
So, Evan, you're saying your favorite part of the movie is the first half, and you turn it off when the first birds show up. You're like, I like the romance. I'm here for the romance and the love triangle. That's what you're saying?
Well, totally. Okay. 100%. And I didn't used to be that way. When I saw it when I was a kid, obviously, I was like, get to the bird attacks already.
Same here. I was so bored until I was exhilarated. That was how the birds was. Anyway, but I was like 8,
But it is an interesting dynamic that's formed here, because Tippi Hedren's character on the surface, is a pretty bizarre leading character. You have...
She's kind of like a Marilyn Monroe kind of daddy kind of figure. Well, no, wouldn't you say she was a big star? She's a big... The paparazzi would hound her. That kind of implication.
No, of course.
Right?
That was an inside joke for everybody listening to the show.
I know. I'm sorry.
But
really.
But like a lot of people have written about, the birds is sort of, that slang euphemism for women, birds. And this movie really is about the female behaviors and things like that, because there is this love triangle that where the film connects its bird attacks over the competing of this one man, because you see that, Rod Taylor's character, he sees a lot of women. You get that impression from the movie, and how like Annie is super hostile towards Tippi Hedren when she first comes in, and then obviously Annie's killed by the birds. And the movie kind of reminded me a little bit of The Brood in a sort of way, of like the Brood is sort of like the broodlings of rage that get activated during this sense of, obviously it's not like based and rooted in trauma, but it's like the birds are activated.
High emotions that are suppressed but coming out in different ways.
Yeah, through this love triangle, and then
it's really like a love rectangle too, right? Because the mom is like the most, thorny figure in the relationship, and they actually the townspeople blame Tippi Hedren for bringing that there, right? Like that she upset the balance of power in that town. Yeah.
That's a great subtext, that classic, in small insular town, fearing the other. I thought that was it's just a little nugget inside this other big expansive world in this film, and it's executed so beautifully and visually very interesting in the diner.
Look on her face.
If you guys don't mind, we could maybe start breaking down, doing a teardown on some of the scenes. I could start maybe offering the big attack in the middle of the film with that great aerial footage, like God's eye or bird's eye view. The gasoline on fire. But if you guys want to just maybe start talking about the specifics, we had talked about the how she's in the glass enclosure, and how terrifying it is each time they come swooping down and breaking the glass as they're going after Tippi in the in the phone booth. But any other things catch you?
Can I close a loop just real quickly, because we started talking about the ending just real quick, and I wanted to bring it back. Can I just bring it back real quick? So I was just kind of, setting up this idea of these dynamics, as you said, Marcus, you said a love rectangle and sort of things like that. Because, the mother character really is interesting in this movie too, because there's this total sign of jealousy with her where she doesn't want to see, her son off with any of the men. And that really upsets her as well. And anytime... basically Melanie is anything Melanie does involving this guy, it's linked to a bird attack, in one way or the other.
That's true.
But the ending to me, just to get to the point, and then let's unpack some scenes, is as soon as the mother accepts Melanie, and actually accepts her as someone who's good enough, she's paid the dues in this relationship, that's when the birds chill out, and that's kind of an interesting, and that's what we're kind of left with, like, because, the mom's deeply afraid that her son's going to get married and abandon her. That's what this is that's the way I see it. But as soon as that the mother and Melanie can connect with each other in a healthy way, the birds like chill out and let them do their
Then
own
they're
thing.
a unit and they can leave the house, quote unquote.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. The nest.
Yeah. No, it's an interesting interpretation. It is like The Brood, and I bet Cronenberg had this film on his mind. And there is an attack of children at a school in The Brood.
Exactly. I know. There's a little bit of a connection there. But anyway, so to get into some scenes, if that's James, if you wanted to throw in on that, or if you have any scenes that you want to specifically talk about.
Yeah, any scenes jump out at you guys?
Yeah. Well, the only thing I want to say is that I think that the bird was partially inspired by the bird attack in Capitola, Santa Cruz. Hitchcock was inspired because he has a vacation house in Scott Valley. Right? It's like near Capitola and Santa Cruz. And so when that event happened, when the seagull attacked people at Capitola, he read it on the newspaper, the Santa Cruz Sentinel. So that's how the whole thing got started. Then to the short story, then the script development, but the whole thing got really, it was inspired. Hitchcock was inspired by that event for him to went on to formalize it into a movie.
Because you're saying it was a local story for Alfred Hitchcock.
Yes. But he was a local. He was a local in that community. He lives in Santa. He has a Hollywood house, where he goes to to make the movie, and the Universal studio and all that. But during his vacation, he would just fly down or drive down to his house in a vacation home in Scott Valley. It's a very beautiful house. It's in BIRDEMIC 3. He actually shot the scene in his house. Yeah, it's a winery now. It's very secluded up in the hills. They call it the heart of the mountain. Okay. So he would sit there, and so he was local, and he would read this story about bird attacking people in Capitola and Santa Cruz, and that's how the whole thing got started with the birds.
Right.
Are you both
Yeah.
local kids? Are you also from the central?
Yes,
California?
I'm near there. Yeah, yes.
Wow.
I go back and forth in Hollywood, but I live in San Jose, so it's right near. It's only a few miles away from Santa Cruz.
Yeah, I'm also reading this further about the actual real attack that you guys are referencing.
Yes.
The algae, there was an acid that was in the algae that caused bird brain damage, or at the least created confusion, dizziness, and seizures. The acid had possibly come from leaky domestic septic tanks in the area rather than from suspected farm fertilizers. So, yikes.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
And I think that's partially how the screenwriter got the idea, and kind of it was subtle, when the bird experts start talking about that man is it's hurting, destroying civilization, and makes life hard to exist, like that. So to me, I think my favorite scene in The Bird is that scene with the bird expert. And that scene alone right there. That really inspired me to really create BIRDEMIC, the whole BIRDEMIC trilogy. That's in alone, plus an inconvenient truth. I'll go an inconvenient truth way back in 2008. Okay. Right. Yeah, and so I mean, he would live in a beautiful house up in that mountain and get inspired, even vertigo. It's San Juan Bautista was like a few miles away in San Francisco. And The Bird, this part of The Bird was shot in San Francisco, in Union Square. Union Station, Union Station, that. Yeah, Union Station, yeah.
And it's hard to. It's also. Sorry, Marcus. One more thing I'll throw to you. It's also like, for me, it was really hard. Just for one last thing on the ecological, it's hard to not think about COVID too when you're watching this movie. It's hard to not think about, just in terms of like, the last few years, at least, like in terms of the fear of the outside and the fear of nature and everything. Like it definitely brought me back to 2020 a little bit watching the movie. I had to say,
right.
So
you were talking about the writing of the film, and there's a couple of funny anecdotes I came across when I was doing some research for this episode. And one is Hitchcock was saying, that it's that he was interviewing writers, and one of the early writers said, "I can only see this film working one way, and we never see a bird in the whole movie. And that was one of the writer's ideas. So then he got another guy, I guess, and he told that guy, yes, we bought the rights to this short story, but we're only keeping the name and the fact that there's birds attacking.
Right.
Yes.
It ignores the woman's short story.
Which I love. And I think it takes a real master director to just throw away the source material and nobody cares. And the film is what's remembered versus the short story.
Just maybe to finish up on sort of the making of portion, what we're talking about. An interesting thing I heard was originally he wanted to have, like Clark, what's his name? The guy from North by Northwest to be the star.
Cary Grant.
Cary Grant, yes.
Cary Grant.
Like he was thinking of having Cary Grant and then Grace Kelly again, who he, featured a lot in the 50s. She was busy in Monaco. So he was going to have some big stars in this film. But the thing is, just to be honest, like Rod Taylor was not a big star then. He was just a generic sort of handsome actor. Not to, he wasn't an international famous star. And Tippi Hedren was unknown. I mean, he discovered Tippi doing TV commercials when Alfred was watching the Today Show.
Right.
So she wasn't an actress at all or star in any way. So my point is, I think Alfred decided to go from having it to be star driven with two big lead actors, and you could see those two people occupying those roles, those two iconic actors. But no, he said, no, the star of the movie is the birds. And it really, you can really feel that. He's like, because that's another sort of uncommon thing for the time and for him to have it's not a star driven film. It's like they're in the background. And, the lead is this strange malady. Also, of course, he finishes and says, the star of the movie is the birds and me, Alfred Hitchcock.
Right.
And that works. That works for me,
Yeah.
Totally. I mean, he was on like he was in everyone's living room weekly, right, with his TV show around that time. So
it was huge right then. Yeah. And
he's like one of those artists like Dali or Warhol, where your personality is like as famous as your work.
How about his cameos? Hey, James, did you ever do cameos? Am I remembering that wrong?
Birdemic
do you do
3,
cameos
baby.
in your films?
He's in Birdemic 3.
Yes.
You are in 3, right?
And all 3 of them, yeah.
You are in all 3
you
of them,
are.
right?
Okay.
Yeah,
so you have another connection.
Yeah. I mean, it's fun to do it, and
sure.
I went through I never went to film school, but if there was a film school for me, it was the film school of Hitchcock Cinema. So it's doing a little cameo. It's fun, but it's all kind of like a tribute to Alfred Hitchcock, the master of suspense. Yeah, and I just like his film in the sense that it's just beautiful to look at, beautiful to people to look at, the beautiful location, and it's a romantic thriller. He invented that, to Vertigo, The Birds, Rear Window, even Rebecca, his first film that won an Oscar for the producer, Rebecca. So he invented that genre. It's a romance between the two protagonists. There's a little twist and turn, and halfway through the movie unfolds itself. I like that, and to me, it's just fantastic. And I just love his film.
Yeah, I got to say that is another inspiration for you and the Birdemic films is a very clear romantic story before all hell breaks loose. That is definitely in kind with how you approach your films.
Yeah, it's a structure. There's a structure. The romantic
there's a structure. Yeah, that's great. Now we have about 20 minutes, and I don't want to be like, let's talk about individual scenes, Magoo here, but
let's do it.
Like there are so many set pieces, and I thought maybe it'd be fun. I'll throw out another one. So the birthday, and this is another theme. So the birthday scene is both campy and hilarious and scary. Like even when I was a kid, it was the shot with the little girl kicking her feet as she's, her on her stomach, and the bird's just going fucking crazy in her head. She's like, it just looks almost funny. But I so if you guys have any thoughts on the birthday, but one of the insights I wanted to bring up was, I think there's another theme going on in the film, maybe the third one we talked about, is the very staid, controlled, ordered human world, and how it just gets fucking, for whatever reason, thematically or narratively, it gets fucked up. Like, hey, let's have a nice dinner, for example. Like, let's sit, let's eat, and then suddenly she's like, like, oh my God, Jim, or whatever his name is. And like, Jim, she sees one of the swallows, and then it's an avalanche of whatever those are, swallows coming through the chimney. And it's just pure fucking chaos in a nice, quiet American family dinner. Yeah. And that happens a lot in the film. And then a nice kid's birthday is destroyed. Like, you guys have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, Hitchcock does talk about that being like a necessary for the fear and for the impact and suspense, and just for the impact of the film is to show real life, natural life, and then contrast that with something fantastical and horrible, That's definitely, like, he actually comes out and says that exact, phrase.
But I feel it's like these are almost in their own way unreal. Everything's so heightened with him.
Yeah. Well, he does mention that too. Like, his films are just basically fantasy, and it looks that way too, right? With the exaggerated colors, like the Technicolor and like
it's beautiful. Those fucking balloons at the birthday party.
Yeah,
it's awesome. That's color. Well, but that's what I'm saying. Like it's everything's a heightened reality, including the mundane reality of a family having fun, and it's like this perfect sort of like Norman Rockwell painting. But it's if you took a Norman Rockwell painting and you were slashing like red paint all over it, and that's very intense shit. And that's again ahead of its time and really quite shocking and innovative. I just thought maybe you guys had some thoughts, because this is continually happening. Even like this beautiful blonde woman when she's on the boat early in the film, and there's that one bit of red blood that kind of like ruins her perfect blonde woman face. When the one bird does the first little attack.
Right.
That's just that kind of hit me. This consistently happening in the film.
Yeah. I mean, you definitely touched on that. I mean, we sort of mentioned it at the top, but that farmer scene, or the guy who's selling food, and just it's film school 101 to talk about this stuff, but you got to, with just the 3 shots in on the guy's eye, it's still effective and visceral to this day. It's really
and then the pan. Well, it's like the thing about Hitchcock that's really fun is like he changes what you are in the experience of the film. Like, what I mean is like what the camera is like. Sometimes you are like, the point of view when you're entering that room is the woman who's entering the room, and you're getting a slow reveal. Something very bad's happening. The window's broken, the bloody feet, and then the head, and then so you're her, but then you're not anybody. You're like another person anonymously looking at Tippi Hedren, who's not noticing the bird slowly accumulating behind her. And just all that playfulness of perspective. And he does such a masterful job. So
one thing I loved is seeing like how well planned out it all was, because the storyboards are out there, which is just like candy to somebody like us to just really dig down into. And like the way the storyboards are, like that scene you're talking about with the birds accumulating on the playground, the awesome and incredibly dangerous looking playground equipment.
Knockety dip dotty dockety.
The
song.
Well, the storyboards are out there, and it's pretty interesting to see how they look exactly like the film. And it was a lot of it was really well planned out, like what they wanted to do.
Sure.
Yeah. Hitchcock. He was very big in storyboarding. I mean, he storyboarded everything before he actually a frame of productions, and that's good. I mean, that's so that you see the movie. I mean, he said that he actually pre-visualized the film before it's done, before it's actually shot, and it's good in the sense that that you can minimize error, and you can have a sense of what the final product is going to look like.
Do you do that?
I do it halfway. I'm much more of an impromptu, because in the independent film, you can't afford to do too much storyboarding. It's just it's not affordable. Even so you're forced to do a lot of impromptu.
Running gun,
impromptu on the fly, really, and like even
because you're working with the circumstances,
condition. Even the great director Francis Coppola. I mean, Apocalypse Now, he had a script, but for reason chaos, it was shot on the fly, rewritten on the fly week to week, like that, and that's what happened to BIRDEMIC 3. I had an idea, sense, I have some lines, but. You watch the film 83 minutes of it. It was basically week to week written on the fly. by chapters, you know. Yeah, and I had to reformat it right now to 83 pages in order to give it to the Academy library. They want a copy of it, but I don't have it in 83 pages. I have it in chapters because it was written on the fly. So I'm still written and put but in reverse, you know,
in post.
Wow. Yeah.
Hey, there's some great films and great filmmakers that don't even use scripts when they go out and shoot films. So
all different ways to do it.
All different ways to do it. I have a scene, if we can talk about it real quick.
Let's scene it up.
One scene for me. How about the attic bird attack scene? Can we talk about that?
Oh man.
Can I get a little weird on you guys for a minute? Like
okay, let me breathe. Go for it.
Well, just like, sort of going back with the themes and the metaphor of the sort of love, the love rectangle between everybody. Mm-hmm. Did anybody else in rewatching this movie, if you did recently in preparation for this, feel that attack, there's something very sexual about that attack scene? Anyone?
No.
Like an assault, a sexual assault.
Well, it's just that in playing it back, it's hard to ignore like the sound she's making and how crazy it is, and then then it's basically it's like all you hear for like 3 minutes is just the insane flapping of the birds, and there is something sexual about it, and then go ahead.
I think so because I couldn't help but keep in mind just what I've heard about Hitchcock and Tippi's relationship being a little fraught, and him sort of being obsessed with her and her feeling uncomfortable. And then that scene specifically, she talks about being really brutal to shoot. Like it was like 7 days of them just basically throwing birds at her and like tying birds to her, and like she's getting packed. Like she really was getting like beat up for like 7 days by them throwing birds at her, which is just so, she's like, oh, I got plucked out of this commercial to come to Hollywood and be a star. And then they're like literally just locking her in this room and throwing birds at her. And I guess they told her it was going to be like mechanical birds. And then they were like, no, actually we can't do mechanical birds. It's going to be the real thing. So it actually is, to your point, a bit of an assault. Like it is it's a great film, and I love it, but it's like it seems like she really went through hell to get that.
I wasn't necessarily going there. I just and I'm aware of that too, the backstory, the behind the scenes stories you hear about the movie, but also just in terms of like more so just tying thematically into the movie, and the relationship that's brimming between her and Annie, and then like obviously that builds to a head, and I don't know. There's just something about it.
Can I play ball with you for a second?
Please.
Like I'm just playing in this playground you've made here.
Thank you.
Is it not at the very least the things break and pivot when she comes back down from the attic, because it's kind of sad. She's very changed, and I feel like maybe she's permanently damaged.
Yes.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, like she's
not the
her
same.
brain
ever
seems
again.
like it's exactly. Like she's never going to be the same for being up in the attic, and she's kind of talking like a child, And I find it actually one of the more unnerving parts of the film. You feel like you lose that character. Like, oh, I guess she's just permanently gone. Like, what is she's muttering when they're going out of the house?
She's traumatized. Yeah,
totally
and
traumatized.
it's just like, I don't know how that works or doesn't work into your the rectangular romantic triangle or whatever. But that for me, that's another upsetting factor, I guess, in the film, is that she's sort of the heart of the film. She's the lead. She's the person we follow the most, and you kind of lose her. And I find that kind of unnerving. Like there's not even like a wink at the end where it's like, you know what, she'll be okay. Like, and like Rod's kind of like we're gonna get through this together. It's just like it's very cold. I guess what I'm saying is like the soul and the heart of the film is suddenly this catatonic faced woman. Yeah, and it's like, what am I to make of that? It's another alienating kind of nihilistic end part of the ending.
Yeah, right. When I was a kid, I thought it was just the ending was just going to go on forever. Like this is just the new reality: is that these birds have taken over the world.
Could be
like Planet of the Apes or something.
Yeah, could be.
And I heard that even Hitchcock didn't even want to put a the end card on there for that. He wanted to leave it that open ended. So I guess that was one of
Well, just to kind of tie things together to what we were talking about earlier on in the hour. Was just like, for me, I don't mean to bog down in this, but it's like, with the bird attacks being linked, like there's just something that's so interesting with her character Melanie just being this outsider, because I do think there's something with it where she kind of represents this kind of modern woman, for the times.
Yeah.
I mean, she's kind of an interesting, that like her being this kind of, prankster character and somebody. She's a very odd character.
She's kind of like a Paris Hilton kind of person.
Yeah.
Like on the Simple Life set.
Right.
Yeah.
I know that was very stupid as a reference, but
yes, it was. But hey, it was.
But
she's
really,
the daughter of a newspaper owner, right? So she is like, rich girl.
Yeah, she's a big
Socialite.
right. She's like an international socialite, and she's suddenly amongst these beet farmers and
that's what I'm saying.
Pig herders.
There is like a clear sort of thing about like her being this like modern woman coming into, and we see this a lot into the films we've discussed on this channel with Deliverance and everything else, of like a modern person coming into a more rural small town community, and like there's friction because she arrives. And it's her being an outsider. All this starts to happen, but it is like these crucial moments in the story with the bird attacks seem to be linked to.
I think the diners have a point.
Okay. Yes, right.
Like everything was fine, and the birds weren't attacking.
Yeah.
Until she set foot in the town. So maybe she is some kind of strange harbinger. In a way we can't really identify in reality or in this film's reality. So he's playing with something. And I'm not sure what, and I think maybe, hey guys, let's get trippy for a second. All those people in that small town represents life 100 years ago.
Exactly.
Before we took a turn to the industrial age, and she represents the jet age, international travel, huge, IBM computers and
gasoline
modernity. Like she is the blonde modernity. Representative. There you go. I think we figured it out.
Yeah.
I love how clear her wardrobe makes it clear that she's an outsider. Because sometimes in an old movie, styles have changed so much you can't tell. Like someone on a movie will laugh at another character's clothes, be like, "You wore that," and we can't tell that there's something wrong with it because it's 60 years have passed. But I love this. It's never more clear. She's got that fur, and it's just
even her hairdo.
Yeah, her hair, she doesn't belong in that world at all, and it makes it so clear. I love how clear it is,
Well, Evan, just promise me you're going to cut to a Simple Life shot when you talk about that. Okay?
I will, of course. Of course.
There's somebody I have to shout out, like this guy, because this movie, I think, for me, this movie is really about the effects, the filmmaking, and all of the work that went into the effects, the special effects. That's my favorite part of the movie. And I have to shout out this guy, Iwerks. His name's which aside from being one of the most unique names, he was also Walt.
That's not the first name?
His name, his first name is U-B.
Oh my fucking! I thought it was his last name.
No, and his last name's weird too. It's Iwerks. And
stop it!
He's.
I thought those were acronyms and stuff.
No, he has a place in history as he was Walt Disney's partner early on, and he actually kind of refined the Mickey Mouse drawing ultimately, and never got a lot of credit. He broke up from Disney and then he came back and started doing special effects for Disney. He did the Song of the South special effects, which was like marrying live action and animation. So he became sort of an expert in that. And helped develop traveling mats and helped perfect the optical printer. And for this movie, one of the things he developed was, you said blue screen, but it's actually a yellow screen, I guess. It's a dual camera system that shot through a prism, two cameras at once, shooting through a prism. And it's like a sodium vapor screen was used, which was like yellow. And I guess that's, for whatever reason, that they get a much clearer matte that way because of like all the motion blur that happens in the bird's wings. If you were going to shoot that with like matte, it would be black underneath there, and it would be really visually distracting. But they came up with a solution to make it on this like sodium vapor screen. I have no idea what it looks like, but I think it's a yellow screen. Anyway, I just think it's really amazing. That's just one little detail, but all of the effects, the way that they all got combined in some of these shots. You mentioned earlier, Tom, the overhead view of the gas station. It's got like the flames are burning, and then before the birds zoom in, you see the town. The town is like a matte painting, which I never realized until this time. It's like
I want to shout that out.
awesome like matte painting thing like they would have used like in Star Wars, you know, like 15 years later.
Yeah, I want to shout that out if I can. I think it's Albert Whitlock. Is that his name? I just want to shout out Albert Whitlock. I think that's his name. He's the matte painter of those scenes of the whole Bodega Bay town of that bird.
And he has a normal name. So
he
I
has a normal name, and he does. Yeah, he's on all the great matte paintings in film history. He did The Thing, all those amazing stuff in John Carpenter's The Thing. He's done a lot of really, really, really great.
Can I bring up one random thing? It is on the technical side of things in a way. So there was some music on the set of the film. Maybe you guys have heard this, but
I love this.
So to drum up, so for Hitchcock to illustrate to the actors the increasing suspense of the increasing lurking attack and the building up of the attacks, he would have a drummer on set on the side of the camera, and he would slowly start building this drum roll, like like when the kids start running out of the school, you know, and getting attacked, they would just have this drummer going fucking crazy and doing big fat drum rolls, and everybody just got into the mode of that, you know. Now that is genius. That's why Hitchcock is a special dude. I mean, there's no rule. He didn't copy that from somebody. That's not in any books. He just thought that's a great, brilliant solution for getting what he wanted to get accomplished, and he's so right. You know, and he just you know, you duck the sound and you overdub it with horrifying electronic bird sounds, and you got the birds. You know. Yeah,
totally.
So that's one of my favorite little.
I love that.
James,
they did a final. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to ask James. Well, we got 5 minutes on the clock. Just real quick, is there any other scenes or details you wanted to mention in the as it relates to the birds that you wanted to get in, or?
I think I made the major point, Ray. In terms of it's a very prophetic film, and again, that scene with the bird expert. It's a single few lines there that makes this film not just classic, a great film, but it's a film that it's raised to another level. For the message of today's contemporary climate change, global warming, all the climate activists, today, from Gretchen, the little girl, to all the activists, they should rewatch what we just have done. Watch The Bird again. And watched it at the point when the bird experts said those few lines.
How about that scene? I know, it's crazy. Yeah, so many years ago. Yeah, it's 70 years ago now, right? Yeah, or no, 60 years ago.
This year, it's the it'd be the birdiversary.
That's right, birdiversary. But how about the also when the bird expert character too? It's like the way that he shoots when she realizes everything she's been saying, that there's no way that the birds could be attacking. You're out of your fucking mind. And then the scene when she's on the floor and it's like a 3/4 profile of like her like super shook, from seeing everything. That's pretty effective too.
Yeah, then you're in trouble when the ornithologist is like, everything I was saying, never mind.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Well, it means that there's the movie is about, no matter what, all the themes you're talking about, it's a world that's out of order, because the birds should be just accompanying us, in the trees every morning, and just sort of part
creatures.
Of the whole thing. But when it's like one element of nature is out of order, and it means everyone is screwed, and it's huge consequences, and that's all it takes to get out of order. And isn't that what Koyaanisqatsi means? That word Koyaanisqatsi?
What I just say is that civilization, industrial civilization, is not, maybe it's saying a message that industrial civilization is not in harmony with nature,
right?
Mm-hmm.
And that the bird attack is nature's way of revenge, sending a message, So man in this warring machine, industrial, it's great. We build all this great. We send men to the moon. We create all this, including
we do podcasts,
Zoom, all this technology. How is it why is it that we're not in harmony with nature?
Right.
And that and all that. You know, how is it that the bird of in Birdemic, even the bird are the good guys, and industrial civilization are the bad guys?
Well, that's the movie Marcus is going to make with the rescoring of the the triumphant bird theme, right?
Yes.
Yeah. You got to make that
birds remixed.
Got to make that score. I got to say, just is a thought about nature. I was watching a documentary about the Mount St. Helens eruption in 1980.
Yeah.
And by the way, that was within days of Hitchcock dying. So I mentally associate the Mount St. Helens eruption with Hitchcock dying. But anyway, I was watching it, and the devastation that happened from Mount St. Helens surprised everyone because it didn't go vertically up. You know, they're all expecting, well, it's going to go and it's going to blow this way. It went sideways.
Yeah.
It erupted sideways. So it went like across everything. And you know what? That's Mother Nature enacting its power. It's like everything in my line, this volcano's saying, is annihilated, and I'm running the show. And it would still be that way today, and it still is that way today. There could be a big old earthquake where I'm sitting, or any of us are, and it would just flatten us all like pancakes, or even all this rain that we had in California. You know, it's like we really need to be more humble, because there are simple exercises, of nature's power, where nothing we do can fight that. Or compete with it. It's like we're just these silly little ants, making a big mess on Earth.
Right.
But Mother Nature's number one.
They got us like trained to think that nature will always like fix itself or something. You can do whatever you want to the planet, and nature's going to right itself. But that doesn't seem to be the case. Right?
Well, it might, but humans are fucked. To quote George Carlin. I gotta say, George Carlin said, like, the Earth's gonna be fine. We're gonna do lots of bad things to it, but we are fucked. Like, this whole ecosystem is gonna get upside down the more we keep doing what James is saying. Like, and then we're out of the picture.
You are blowing past the clock, sir.
Well, I'm talking about ecology. I'm not talking about the film. but I'm done. Anyway.
What George Clinton song was that? Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
It's George Clinton's Echo Hell. No,
okay.
It's George Carlin.
I know. Okay. Everybody, that was one.
Up at the clock.
Okay, that was one
anyway.
fucking hour on The Birds with special guest James Nguyen. James, thanks so much for joining us.
James, it was great.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for inviting me.
Did you have fun?
Yes, I enjoyed every minute.
Great.
Thank you.
Great.
Thanks for inviting me and everything, and this was wonderful and it was fun to do.
Yes, absolutely.
It
Everybody,
was a blast.
If you're listening, if you're watching, get in the description of the video, click that link, and rent and watch Birdemic 3 Sea Eagle. It's available now everywhere.
So cool. It just came out, huh?
Yeah, it just came out on VOD yesterday.
Like 2 days ago.
Let us know. Leave us a comment, after you watch the video. Let us know what you think.
Absolutely. Do it. And James, if anyone wants to get in touch with you or follow you on social media, how do they do that?
There's the Facebook, Birdemic 3 Facebook site. Okay. And you can go contact me through there, or even just through the website, movieheadpicture.
Movieheadpictures.com. We'll put that in the description as well. Awesome. Let's do just real quick before we send everybody on their way. Let's talk about next week. We gotta talk about what we're doing on next week's show, and it's an important one. And this is Tom's birthday episode number 2.
That's right. Well,
I can't believe it's your birthday again already.
I know. Well, this is getting scary. This show's been on for a while now. This is the second. This is a birthday-versary now, to coin a phrase. This is the second, because I guess each of us are going to have our own birthday episodes. This is my second. The first was last January, and I picked Cracking Up, the Jerry Lewis epic, which was made right around the time of The King of Comedy, which we just did.
That's right.
But I don't know. I was on the fence, and I'm just going to go for it. I'm going all out. This is a big film for me. I'm doing BJ Lang Presents, a.k.a. The Manipulator, 1971 film starring Mickey Rooney. It's out of control. It's pure LSD 25 cinema, and we're going to have fun and talk about it.
Yeah. So, is there any way for people to watch it? Is it on YouTube, or is it anywhere? Or?
I don't know. I think so. I think actually it's one of those... I think it's in public domain essentially now, and it's one of those weird, those bundled DVDs of like 25 movies, like horror from outside your mind, or like
maybe
like,
it's on Tubi or something. Well,
Barn of the Naked Dead DVD series. So I know that it is, and it goes into the name The Manipulator though, not
BJ Lang Presents.
BJ Lang Presents. So
okay.
Maybe it's on YouTube. Go ahead.
It's definitely a big film for Tom. I remember him talking about it when we first met, and it was one of those films, one of those many moments where I think that I'm pretty steeped in like obscure movies, and then you spend 5 minutes talking to Tom, and he's like, "BJ Lang Presents," and I'm like, "Okay, never heard of it. Never heard of it."
Okay, the good news, it's right there, folks, on YouTube with the slow motion rain.
Sweet. Excellent.
So get
all right, everybody,
watch in, and let's all have a big BJ Lang Presents party.
Yeah, we should say that birthday episodes on 1 fucking hour is a full license to really bring whatever the hell you want to the show, something that you under no other circumstance we'd normally probably do. Right. And so strap in for something very unusual with knock that off.
Tom's watching it right now.
I'm sorry. No, for some reason Cannonball Run 2 started playing on my phone. Okay. So it happens. It happens.
All right. Well, okay.
Yes, it's going to be a Wild Style episode. You got it.
Wild Styled episode next week.
Like this one with James. All right, guys.
Thank you.
One more time.
Thanks for coming, buddy. Hey,
it's very fun. Maybe we'll do it again for Birdemic 4.
Yeah, possibly.
Yeah.
We can talk about.
Maybe I come back do an episode on the Hitchcock greatest film, Vertigo, which was recently voted the greatest.
I was just
film
going to say. Yeah,
that's right.
Awesome.
It was. That's right. We could totally
Let's
do that.
it.
All right. Well,
done.
Before we let everybody go, of course, we can't leave you without your moment of Zen. All right, everybody, have a great rest of your week, and we will see you again for Tom's Birthday Spectacular. All right, bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
Motherfucking goddamn orange peel beef.
That was wicked, man.
Well, the other thing I wanted to say, I wanted to make sure we spent some time on my MVP for the Birds, which is Veronica Cartwright, who plays the kid in the movie, and she the thing that got it for me was I was watching the Birds first in the late 70s, and this was Veronica's time because I had seen her successively in Invasion of the Body Snatchers, 1978.
Oh God, that's her.
Isn't that right?
Alien.
Isn't that wild?
An alien.
An alien, right? Oh my
That's
God.
what I'm saying.
Right.
So when this is Tom, when he was like a little kid, was like, oh my God, she's a chick in fucking Birds. And she's in my 2 favorite movies that freak me out. Those movies freak me out. I saw them both in the theater. So it's just like, I hope actually that both directors of both 70s films were like, oh, we got to get the girl from the Birds, right? And it's like, totally, that's the move.